Hi, friends. Welcome to Created to Connect, a podcast that focuses on understanding our need and desire for relationships and how to overcome the obstacles that prevent us from truly connecting with God and each other. Join me on this journey as I discuss how family upbringing, cultural shifts, and the modern church have impacted how we relate. By applying God's Word to our lives, we can begin to understand why He designed us to be in relationship with Him and with others. I'm Sam Landa. Welcome to Created to Connect. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Created to Connect. This is episode 8. We are 2 episodes away from hitting the milestone of 10 episodes, which is great. So if you've been following up to this point, thank you. I really appreciate your support in this journey. So what are we talking about today? Today, I'm going to answer some questions. Well, they're not really questions that were submitted, but a number of you commented on some of the statuses that I posted last week, I think it was. And I thought I would gather that information and kind of submit them in a question manner. So I'm going to review a number of these and just kind of give my general thoughts on them. And they're definitely concerns or ideas that many Christian singles have in regards to the dating world. I did release the earlier podcast that's talked about dating, specifically why it's difficult or trying to find the perfect person. But this one, I'm going to answer some questions that have to deal with dating. And I know a lot of you guys are going to relate to these because I think these are questions that many of you have. And these are also questions that I struggled myself with when I was dating. So I know that this will be a blessing. Before we begin, I just want to encourage you that if you are listening to this episode, that by the end of it, if you're able to go to iTunes and leave a review, all you have to do is just click on the stars there, and that will help give this podcast some legs and hopefully continue to spread it to more people and make it more accessible to them. Also, if you are on Spotify, then just feel free to follow the podcast there. That will also help move the podcast forward. So thank you guys. Let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. And here are some general responses or views on the idea of dating. Okay, so just so you have, and these were submitted by a number of you, but let me read 4 of these, which were the ones that were submitted, and see what you think. So dating is, and here are the 4 descriptions: complicated, transitionary, seeking, and sowing. And all of those definitely ring true to the process of dating. But the one that probably has the most negative aspect or view of dating is probably the word complicated, right? And I think many of you will agree with that. But it's true, even though it's negative, it is true. It can be complicated, can be difficult to traverse those waters and try to understand where each person stands in regards to dating. So it definitely can be that. I really like, though, the word sowing, because you really are preparing the ground for what it will be like for you in the future if you decide to get married. So to that, the other statement that was also to be filled in is marriage is, and here are the further descriptions: wonderful, permanent, staying, and reaping, right? And I think people can probably read permanent and staying as a negative, but again, those are just realities that if you do get married, it is permanent. You make a covenant before God in trying to make your marriage work. You essentially stay as well. Now, I know that sounds negative, but if you think that you're not going to have any concerns or issues in marriage, then this is one of those things that you do have to think about, in regards to staying. So it's not just staying for the sake of staying, but rather to remain committed to your vows that you made to your spouse. So all of these are great, and especially like reaping, right? That one goes with the sowing one. So sowing, and then you reap in marriage what you sowed in your dating relationship. All right, so that just gives a general idea of how dating and marriage are perceived by people. Interestingly, these were all married folk who submitted these responses. So I think that was interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into the first question. How fast is too fast when it comes to dating? Or how slow is too slow, right? Yeah, you could be on both sides of the spectrum. There's some people move very fast and, they can date and get to know each other within 3 to 6 months and they decide to get married. Others move very slow. They're like lava, take 2, 3, 4, 5 years and still haven't made that commitment to get married. And again, there's a lot of different circumstances that may prolong dating. There's a lot of different circumstances that may expedite dating. But the idea is, how do you know if you're moving too fast or too slow? A lot of that has to do with a level of self-awareness, right? You need to know yourself. You need to know what your tendencies are when it comes to dating. Okay, because there, as this person stated, there are some natural steps in getting to know one another. You can't rush that process. But the key here, at least from what I've been able to find, is how much do you share with each other? What do you share with each other? And so on, right? So there's a lot of people who really are focused on the fun aspect. They just want to have fun and want to just see how you can if you can get along with the other person, if you guys can have fun together, and all that's fine and well. But at some point, you do have to ask those tough questions. When you get older, there's positives and negatives to that, obviously, right? When you get older, you tend to get more set in your ways. And because you get more set in your ways, we tend to be quicker to judge. We tend to be quicker to cut someone off if they don't meet our expectations, because in our minds, we know what we want. And when we don't see that in the other person, then we basically call it quits, right? So getting older has its benefits in that you do have a better sense of what you're looking for, but at the same time, we also tend to be much harsher with other people. We don't give them a chance to be real, right? Because we expect them to have everything together by this age. So we do need to have a sense of grace with people. So if you're dating right now, keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind that that person that you're considering is still human and still has their flaws, same as you do, right? So be patient with each other. Now, it is my personal opinion that anywhere from 3 to 5 dates, you should have an idea of whether or not you want to start officially dating someone. This whole notion of we're talking, we're getting to know each other, we've been hanging out, whatever the case is, you can do that for a couple of dates. But I would say after 3 to 5 dates with texting in between and all that stuff, because usually that's what kind of leads to the upcoming dates as well, you should have an idea of whether or not you can start officially dating that person, right? Now, again, all of this stems from how much you actually share and get to know about the other person. So I typically have 2 general guidelines. So, and it's different, right? Because sometimes it's a person you already know, and sometimes it's a person you may have just met, right? So in general, for people that you already know, okay, you've seen them at church, they're a coworker, they're, real close friends with, other family members, whatever the case is, you've had opportunities to observe them. You are able to take inventory of how they are at church, how they are with their friends, what they do for work, maybe even how they treat their own family. So those 3 to 5 dates give you the ability to kind of formulate in your mind whether everything is consistent with what you've already seen. Okay. So really, these 3 to 5 dates are about how comfortable you are with each other. You already have all the information that you need. Now it's about, do you feel comfortable with that person? As you're out with them, as you're dating, how does the conversation flow and all that? So you can determine, again, whether or not you want to officially date that person within 3 to 5 dates, right? And again, I'm just talking about knowing when to date. I'm not talking about marriage, although dating can lead to marriage and should lead to marriage, but I'll explain a little bit more on that in a bit. So first, if you can both, so again, this is for people that you know, if you can both objectively, which means you have visible evidence, and in your own estimation, gut feeling, leading by the Spirit, say that this person is a Christian and even more importantly, that they're a growing Christian, you can or should seek out that relationship. And this I really pointed towards the men, because if the men are observing and they are seeing these young ladies, with whether it be in the church, this young lady that they're interested in the church, then ask her out if you've seen these things, and if you're interested, ask her out. Don't try to wait for every single puzzle piece to come together and give you this clear picture of what it is that you're looking for. I mean, if you've ever put together a puzzle, it doesn't become clear until you have a good portion, some good pieces together. There's some that just distinctly show you what is where and what other pieces you can place in that same area, right? You just want to have a general idea, and then you start filling in the rest of the pieces as you date and get to know each other. Okay. So second, does this person focus his or her attention on others? How do they treat others? Are they consistent in their treatment of others? Essentially, what you're trying to do is you're trying to see whether or not the person is using their singleness to be committed to things of the Lord and wanting to please him, as we see in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 32 to 35. Are they using their singleness to bless others and to pour into others? Okay? And this last one, it's very key, very important, right? You want to know whether that person actually seems interested in you. It's simple, right? But we tend to overcomplicate it by overthinking every single look, word, and motion, right? Just talk to the person. And if you get a feel for how they feel about you and how they act around you, then go for it, right? Again, because this is someone that you've known and have been able to observe, you'll be able to get a sense of how they feel about you. And if you don't, then just, ask, hey, I've been noticing you've been treating me like this. Is there something there? Right. And again, usually this is what I recommend. I mean, guys, if you're interested in a girl, don't play with her hard. Don't lead her on. Ask her, hey, I'm interested in you. We know each other for X amount of time. I've seen this, and that. Would you like to go out on a date? And if she says no, then it's no, and you move on, right? But don't put the girl in a position where she has to risk getting hurt. I'm all for men being the ones who take that risk, okay? Because I think that we can deal with it differently, and we're able to move on a little bit quicker, I think. This doesn't mean that women aren't able to deal with it, but again, for us, it's to protect them from not having to risk being hurt. I think we should be the ones to do that. So I know that's not going to be a popular opinion. Feel free to comment in the comment sections below, and feel free to answer. I'll answer as I can. Okay, now, what about if it's someone that you just met? If it's someone that you just met, ask around. Ask people who know him or her to see what the general consensus is. Usually people carry with them a reputation. And though it may not all be true, it gives you more information for you to make a smarter decision. Secondly, observe the person at social events and see if what people say about them are true. It requires a lot of self-reflection and honesty, guys, because you don't want to shoot someone down just because of what others say, right? You want to be able to take what others say, but also come to the realization of what you see and tying that together with what you've heard, and see if everything kind of lines up, right? Our inclination is to give people the benefit of the doubt most of the time. So make sure that you observe. And then lastly, most importantly, ask God for wisdom and guidance as you pray for clarity on whether or not you want to pursue this relationship with this person. Again, you're just going on dates. And after 3 to 5 dates, I think you have enough information to be able to determine whether or not you want to make it more serious and move into an actual relationship. All right, next question. From a girl's perspective, it seems like there aren't that many godly men who actually take initiative. It seems that guys aren't as willing to put the effort into dating. And sadly, I do have to agree with this one. Because there are many men who aren't willing to not just put in the effort, but there's something that holds them back. And it can be commitment, it can be finances, it can be risking being hurt in the process. So there's a lot of different things that can hinder a guy from wanting to put in the effort into dating. I think a lot of that does come from a sense of being rejected. I really do think that that's what it is, because in today's culture, men are not seen in a positive light. And because they aren't seen in a positive light, it's hard to believe that someone can actually see the good in guys. And I think if we re-emphasize in today's culture that men are to be protectors and providers, you will see a change in regards to this idea of taking initiative. Because again, it forces men to start thinking in a way of providing. Like, how can I provide for my family? When you take away that idea of provision, right, what does it do? It makes the guy self-centered, self-focused, right? I just need to provide for myself and do whatever it is that I need to do to make sure that I'm okay. And with no concern for anyone else, today's men have become self-centered. And a lot of that has to do with pain. The only way to heal your pain sometimes is to focus on yourself and not put yourself in a situation where you can get hurt. And that's what happens with men asking girls out or even putting in the effort. It's almost like they put themselves in a position of wanting to make sure everything is okay before they take those big steps, right? And I have a general rule for guys on this one. I mean, you have to take the risks in being rejected. If you're interested in a girl and you want to date her, you have to put yourself at risk, your emotions. And remember, with that, you also get stronger, right? Now, in the midst of this process, or in this process, you have to be wise, right? Who you're not just going to ask out any girl, right? You're going to ask out someone who is also growing in the Lord, who is a believer, obviously, who's also growing in the Lord, and who you feel, again, going back to the first question I answered, and that you have a sense of her actually liking you. And if you do, go for it, right? She may say no, but if all the first 3 boxes check off, then you should be all right. But again, it's a risk you have to be willing to take. If you're growing in the Lord and that girl you're interested in is growing in the Lord, it'll be pretty difficult for her to say no to a guy who is growing in God's ways. But you have to be keen on being able to identify that person who is also growing in their walk with God. Give it 3 to 5 dates. And if you're still interested, ask her to go steady or become your girlfriend. I know some of you guys are probably, go steady? What are you talking about, Sam? Basically, that was an old term. I mean, I'm not that old, but I do remember the asking a girl out or asking a girl to be your girlfriend was called going steady. So, just FYI. Anyways, Christian girls want to be asked out. They want to see guys who are intentional about doing so. Don't let the culture tell you that the woman should take the lead in dating. And again, this is a temptation that you have to fight off because it makes it easier on us when the pressure is on the woman, right? If we put the pressure on her and say, well, it's up to her to, try to win me over, then, again, you're not protecting her emotions, number one. And number two, you become lazy. You become lazy and in trying to win her over. The whole purpose of dating is for you to win over this woman. Again, you need to be perceptive about where she is in her spiritual walk. And if you listen to my last episode on dating, check if you guys are going in the same direction. And if you are and she's growing in the Lord, ask her out. Okay? Also, though, on the other hand, ladies, if you are interested in a guy, you also have to give them a sign that you're at least interested. Okay, I think oftentimes guys may be confused. They don't know how far to go in regards to, talking to a girl, how much to text, how much to uh, spend time with each other. So, they're trying to figure it out. So give them a sign, and guys will have to learn to be perceptive to you when you say no. But if you are interested, a smile here and there helps. Ask how he's been, or just hang around him, be around him more often, right? That shows him at least that you're interested. Christian guys don't want to be pushy and don't want to seem desperate, so they're not initially going to read you as being interested. But if you have tried to give him these clear signs and he's not being responsive, then it's on him to make the move. Okay, let him put himself out there, and you also have to let him know whether or not you're interested. Okay, and I know it's hard because you have to wait, and I just don't know how many men are actually taking that risk. It would be, again, if more men can hear this, that would be my recommendation. Learn to take the risk in dating, okay? And it won't be a risk if you're looking for the three, or as much of a risk if you're looking for those three factors I spoke of in episode 7. Now, another comment that was made kind of pointed to the idea of when people say that they are working on themselves. And what does that really mean? And if you think about working on yourself, all of us are always a work in progress. And I really see relationships, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a romantic relationship, as an opportunity to grow. Now, you can tell when someone is just not ready for a relationship. It's not just that they don't want to have a relationship, it's that there are some serious things going on in their lives that it shows that they're just aren't going to be committed to a relationship. They still want to have fun. They still haven't matured yet. They're not serious about their faith. All of those things are things that you can see simply by observing, right? So that's, whenever you see that, obviously you don't want to just jump into a relationship. Yes, they could be in the process of working on themselves. But when I talk about working on themselves, I'm really referring to someone who has been growing, or who is in general gets along well with people, is able to hold a conversation, is focused on trying to build something with their lives, right? So they have a sense of purpose, and they do want a relationship, but they want to perfect something in their lives, or they want to deal with something in their lives, and that's really what holds them back. So that's one aspect. But another thing that I feel holds them back is just the fear, right? The fear of failing. And that's a big one too. I've shared with you this before. I think I even shared this in the last episode, where coming from a divorced home, how that caused a lot of fear in my own life, because I would always think that, if my parents got a divorce, and maybe I'm going to end up divorced, and I didn't want to believe that. And even more so when people started telling me about the statistics of that. And I shared in episode 7, which is the previous episode, about the error in sharing those statistics. So hopefully you can tune into that one. But again, this idea of working on yourself really has to do with either fear or just not wanting a relationship. It's one of those two. Some people could just be at an older age, late 20s or early 30s, and they just don't want a relationship, and I guess that's okay, for them not to want one. So don't get involved with that type of person. But if they do want a relationship and they're talking about working on themselves, try to look for any red flags. Okay, they're saying that they need to work on themselves. What does that actually mean? Does it mean that they don't know how to work through problems? What does that mean? But a lot of the things that we learn about ourselves is through relationships. So in general, if a person that you're interested in is a believer, if they are doing their best and they're growing in their relationship with the Lord and in their relationship with other people, then I think that's okay. You'll learn more about them, and you'll learn more about yourself as you date each other. And then lastly, I just want to address this question of similarities, right? Because I think that's a question that many people have. How similar do I have to be in when I do date someone? Like, if they don't like the same types of sports that I like, the same types of food, the same types of adventures, is that a deal breaker? So again, I'm going to reference episode 7. If you are looking for similarities, the things that you do want to have similar to each other are faith, family, future. Okay, so as you're dating, and if you see that you guys align with faith, family, and future, everything else is just icing on the cake. If they like the same sports team that you do, that's awesome, right? But it can also be fun if they don't like the same sports team. It's very interesting because my wife's I didn't know if she was gonna like football. She doesn't really watch football as much, but I'm a hardcore Cowboys fan. Her dad and her brothers were Redskins fans, so I don't know what I did to win them over, but Cowboys and Redskins don't mix. But it does make it fun when football season comes around. So that's kind of part of the relationship between our families. So it's been really cool to see that despite our differences in teams and actually rivalry teams, we're still able to communicate with each other and enjoy that time together. So those are things that you might look at. You might say, well, they're very extroverted, I'm very introverted. Again, me as well as you've seen those types of relationships where one is just more extroverted and one is more introverted, and that's okay. They get along fine, right? But whenever you see two people just going in different directions, having a different faith, different perceptions or ideas about family, that's really where you see a lot of the discord in relationships. So my advice to you, if you and the person that you're dating align with the 3 F's, faith, family, future, then you'll be okay. All right? As long as you continue, and I do always say this as well, both of you have to continue to grow in your walk with Christ in order to continue to improve your relationship. Okay? Look for a person who's always growing or looking to get better. And that's going to be a huge, huge benefit to you as you guys grow in your relationship together. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. This was a follow-up to the last episode, just answering some questions or comments that you guys have presented or commented in the last couple of Facebook posts that I put up. And I really appreciate just engaging with you guys. And again, if you have any questions or topic ideas, feel free to submit them on my Facebook page, and I will make episodes based off of those suggestions. So thanks again, guys. Now, I do want to have one more reminder, sorry. If you can just go to the iTunes podcast and just click on the stars and leave a review there. Again, all you have to do is just click on the stars. If you leave a comment, it's great. I'll read through it, and I really appreciate them. They're very encouraging, and I enjoy hearing your guys' feedback. So thanks again, guys. I'll see you next week.